Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sunset Stitches. My name's Trevor Conquergood, and this is Free Font Friday. And as always, Nicholas and I are excited because, first of all, it's Friday, and that means it's almost the end of the week. And I see. And the second thing is we get to announce the new free font of the week here at Sunset Stitches. And the font for this week is called Cut Out. And I'm not exactly sure why Nicholas chose that, but I felt like it kind of looked like the cutouts of when you do a burnt out sign, when the wood guy, like we've got one at the lake that says Conquer Goods Quarters or something like that, right? And it's anyhow, this is your new free font of the week. It's called Cutout. Thank you, Nick. So yeah, I've got Nicholas here with me in the studio today, and he is able to take care of the comments and the questions. And so if you're stopping in to be with us live today, be sure to say hi. And so, hi, Sharon. So nice to see you today. It's great. JC from Connecticut. CT. What's that? Boy, I got to know. You're testing my skills. I'm going with Connecticut. Anyway, Cheryl from Colorado. How's it going today, Cheryl? It was nice to see you guys in class this week. Hey, Denya from Cleveland, Ohio. I got my Cleveland patch with me right here. We're going to have fun today. We're going to talk about the new fonts. I've got some news to announce. I'm starting to book my travel for later this year. And so I have a few that I can tell you guys about right now. It's so great to see you guys. So thank you, everybody who's tuned in with us live this afternoon. Yeah, great. Texas. How hot is it in Texas today? I'll tell you, it's pretty nice in Saskatoon right now. This is the time of year where, it can actually get hot up here. When I say hot, I don't mean like Arizona or Texas hot. Maybe Texas in January hot, right? We get that hot. What do you say, Nick? 80s, 90s? If we get to 100, that's a big deal up here, and it's not very often to get all the way up to that high. Anyway, what's it say for today, Nick? Let me check it. So it's 22 degrees Celsius right now, and I know that sounds like freezing to you guys, but it's actually 72 degrees Fahrenheit up here in Saskatoon. So that's not too bad, and it's going to be Father's Day this weekend. And since I'm a father and I have a father that I get to also celebrate with, I just want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are doing embroidery and checking out Sunset Stitches, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are also checking out Sunset Stitches, because Mother's Day was last month. But I still haven't even managed to see my mom and my dad since Mother's Day, and so I hope to see them maybe next week. We are going to the lake for Saturday and Sunday this week. And so I'm happy about that. It's always happy to be in the weekend. So who's excited to get a new free font, you guys? It's called Cut Out. And I tested it to make sure that it was all ready to go. And it's just an excellent new font. It's kind of got a good size range. This is probably about as big as you're going to get it without having to do something about it. If you know what I mean by that. Like, see how that's a satin stitch right there, and how that is bigger, and how I split it. Yeah. Now, how I split it is an option. So do you like how I split it? I guess it becomes the question, because I could have done it as a pattern fill, and that would have kind of smoothed it out. I could have done it as more of a random split, and that would soften the split. But I did it as a middle split so that you would see it, right down the center of the T. If you have to split it, let's split it. And it kind of gives a whole nother dimension to the font, doesn't it? It's like a double cool. I don't know. You can do that with any font, you guys. I will show you how to do that. So, hey, Suzanne, it's so great to see you stopping in the chat there today. So where should we start? Let me just bring this slide forward to show you the pictures of the stitch outs. And I guess I'll just say I'm excited for the fireworks design challenge, because that's what's coming up next for FTCU Workshop 04. We just had Class 18 this week. And so there's your fancy motif border. I can create that motif border in 30 seconds. It's such an interesting effect. It's like a little trick, you make one corner and you kind of make it really dynamic. So it's like big and then small and then big again. And then you copy it around, you use the corners tool to do a layout. And it's like I can create a border around a design that's really interesting, and it only takes a second to do it. So that was fun, but really the challenge, that was just setting the stage for the fireworks challenge. And so I did this design. I can just see it, with a big number 4 underneath it, or, if you're, maybe a Canada flag if you're up here in Canada. But it's fun to do fireworks. You almost can't get it wrong, really. And this is more like graphic fireworks, right? Like a JPEG. So we had fun in class this week. Who was there, and are you working on fireworks? Because I imagine Cheryl's probably going to make some fireworks, and Suzanne is probably going to make fireworks too. I kind of did it so that if you were planning on, at least now it's like a little nudge, do some embroidery for Independence Day there. It's coming up. Canada Day is July the 1st. And then, of course, July the 4th is Independence Day in the United States. So that was... that's the FTCU fireworks design with the rocket shooting off. But see what I mean about how that motif border on the rocket gets bigger? It starts out really small up here on the, at the bottom of the rocket, and then it just gets bigger as it kind of goes along. And so that's a really easy thing to do, if you know how, right? So that was one of the things that we were kind of learning about in class this week. And so you're all welcome to come and join as a member of Workshop 4. If you're not a member already, you could use this coupon to get in for a little bit of a break in the price. So I was trying to make it big, but it's Trevor 99 anyway is the coupon. It says right here, Trevor 99. It'll make the price $99.97. Yeah, that's okay, Nick. You don't have to bring that massive. Bring me back big. I want to talk to people. I want to chat for a minute longer, and then I'm going to go full screen and show you guys some cool stuff, because I had the Cleveland patch. If you don't know, I just came home from Cleveland, and it was such a great time visiting Pins and Needles, and I really love my trips. I always really do a lot to commemorate them. I make patches, I make postcards, I make skyline sketches. I did multiple ones for Cleveland because they have such an amazing skyline in that city there. And one of my friends said, "Do you have a Knoxville patch?" And I was like, well, for a number of times I've been to Knoxville, I've never really made a patch. I did do the Knoxville firefighters patch for another favor. But so I want to show you how easily I can recycle my patch. I turned this into a Knoxville patch, and it wasn't any trouble, for a good friend, mind. But that's kind of the cool thing. Like once I made it say Cleveland, all I really have to do is type in Knoxville, and I can change it like super easy. So the trick for that is to set the baseline. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, once I put the baseline where it belongs, you could put any words you want on it, right? It's the same thing with Ohio. I could put in here Tennessee, and I don't have to do any work, because when I made the design, I set the baseline in the design to match it. And then it's saved there, and you can easily update it. All that kind of stuff. So,
hey Dad, how do you make the font small enough on the patch?
How do I make the fonts small enough? Well, that's a really good question. We could talk about small fonts today if you guys would like to. I always give a little bit of a suggested minimum on all of my fonts and maximum. But that said, I think all the Floriani fonts have a suggested minimum and a maximum. So if you're trying to make them small, one of the suggestions might be to look for one that kind of is suggested to be small. But the main ingredient with getting fonts small is to not get too small, that they get too skinny. And some fonts were designed more bold. And the more bold and condensed they get, the better they are at small sizes. because if they're tall and skinny and you try and make them small, they become very skinny, and there is a minimum. I only give one rule. If you take my FTC workshop classes, you've probably heard me say, don't make anything smaller than 1 millimeter. That's like my only rule. I don't give a rule, because to me, every other rule that I could think of, there's a reason to break it. And that's the real truth of it, is that it's more principles and guidelines, because, I'd say do this, but then no, not when that, there's always if. But really, the one thing I rarely suggest, I can already tell you a reason to break the rule. So it's like everything, there's always but 1 millimeter, if you're sewing with thread in the needle, let's put that qualification in, because sometimes I use my needles now for cutting, and then I make my stitches really small. But that's a totally another thing to talk about. Really, today we're saying that when you're making an embroidery stitch, and from one needle point to the next needle point needs to be at least 1 millimeter. That's my only rule, 1 millimeter, and no less. But it could be better if it was 1.5, that, I don't mean everything should be, but really when it comes down to making that text small, and when we go on screen, I'll show you exactly how you can figure this out. But basically, when you start to make the text small, you want to look at how small is the width getting. And if the width's getting too small, you'll notice it. And if you don't notice it, you can measure it. I'll show you how to measure it, but it becomes obvious. And then what's the answer, Nick? What am I going to say?
For what?
Too small. If it's too small and you need to fatten it up,
0.2 pull comp.
Yeah, that's right. He said 0.2 pull comp. So for real small letters, adding pull comp makes all the difference in the world, to get them to look at. This isn't all that small to me. Like that Ohio embroidered pretty darn good. I mean, they're never flawless when they're in that under 10 millimeter range, especially when you sew on something that's, this is on an embroidery fill, so it's a pretty smooth thing to sew on. But that said, it's not perfectly smooth. There is up and downs of in between the threads, but the main thing is, can you read it? And does it turn into a blob? And the real worry about the small letters, like this font that I used for America, is not really designed to get much smaller, because notice how the E is starting to look like an R or some weird letter. And I think that's because the E is not the stroke in the center of the E is kind of been stylized and pushed up towards the top. Can you kind of sense that in it? And so it says United States, but if I look really closely at that one letter, you're kind of like, okay, what kind of letter is that anyway? Could you fix that? Easy, make me a list of all the things that I just said I'll show you how to do, and I'll do them all. But I would probably say the easiest way to fix that is a stitch edit. You just take out a couple in between there to stop it from, kind of what's happening is, because I've made it small, I feel like that the stroke of the E actually has a serif on it, because that America is not just a straight font. It's got serifs. A serif is like when the bottom of the T has another thing at the bottom of it, and you can do a mock serif or you can do a true serif. Whew, we're getting into a lot of things that I don't have visuals or graphics to explain, so I'm not going to go any further. If you even know what I'm saying, great. If not, let's move on. What size is Ohio? Well, I don't really know, but it's about when I open it up, we'll measure it. It's right on the it's about the size of my pinky finger. I'm going to open the design, and then we can see the size and we can talk about it. But generally speaking, when text becomes the most challenging is when you try to get to 5 millimeters tall and 4 millimeters tall. And that is like even half of Ohio is what I'm saying. I can still get it half of the Ohio if I want to. So we're still in sizes here where it's pretty successful, I would say. I think the Ohio is probably 8. I don't know. We'll see when I get there. 8 or 10 millimeters tall. So then let's go on screen. I wanted to show how I do that and how I do this patch and how I was able to kind of transform the text like that. So we'll go on screen. I want to show you guys my towel before we go. I was on Hoop Fest this week. It's like a show. I don't know if it's a show. 5 days. They have presenters every 30 minutes. I was one of them. That was kind of fun. But I did on the towel to show off the nap control. That's another little thing you can do with your text. So after we make our text in there, if you want, I'll put some nap control on it to show you how I did that. But you can't really see it, when you're just at a normal distance away from the towel. You have to literally get within 2 feet of the towel to be able to tell that I've used the nap control. Because as I get closer to you, eventually it starts to kind of come into focus. And that's just like real life. And you're honestly in your real eyes. When I hold it this far away, I can barely tell it's there. No, sorry, I'm just covering you guys up, making you look at the back of my towel. Sorry. So, anyhow. So what we'll do is go on, bring my screen a little bigger this time, Nick, for me, would you please? And I'll bring up my embroidery software. So there's the font of the week. It's called Cutout. If I start a new text segment, it's just going to put down the words my text, and it's going to be in the font called Cutout. You can, I think it's kind of a neat one because the uppercase and the lowercase match, but they're smaller. So if I make it say Trevor and click apply, notice that the letters, well, I guess there's no matching T, but just know that the T, if it was Trevor with a T at the end of it, the lowercase T and the uppercase T match each other. They just, my dad didn't hear the part about I was live from 1 to 2, so he's just calling because I texted him and said, I'm live from 1 to 2. I'll talk to you after. He heard call you. That's okay. We'll call Dad back, okay, Nick? Because I'm pretty sure he's just calling me because I told him to call. I was going to call me. So, anyhow, I made the Knoxville patch, right? Really, this was the Cleveland patch. I made the Cleveland patch, but I converted it into Knoxville so here, let's go and open up the Cleveland one because I made it originally. Is it not in this folder? Well, I don't have to open it. I know. Well, okay, here. Let me just look into, it's in another computer, that's all. So I can find it by going there. There you go. The Cleveland patch. This was the original. So you'll notice right away that obviously the words are Cleveland, Ohio. But not only that, I changed out the skyline, right? Because that's actually kind of like a Cleveland skyline. So when my friend said, do you have a Knoxville patch? I was like, well, I could probably do that. So before I mess up my Cleveland patch, I go file, save as, and give it a new name and find a new place for it, right? So, okay, go to, I made a folder in here for Knoxville. And I'll just call it, test. We probably won't make a perfect patch right here. We'll just show you exactly how we did it. But the point is, when I originally made this patch, when I put the text in, so here's the word United States of America. And if I wanted to change the text, I could make that say Canada and beyond. Or something, and click apply, and it's going to fit right around the same place as United States of America. I know that the size is going to be the same, and it looks like the font changed, or no, it was all capitals before is probably what it was. Let me see. The font probably didn't change. So it was. Yeah, it was Daniel. Of course it was. But it was all uppercase. That's why I was like, looks so much different. Because it's upper and lower. So, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter, but we'll do. All right. So now I used capitals. It'll but the point is, it'll fit and it'll go in the same arc as it was before. So it makes the patch once you get a design like this, it's really easy for you to customize it. So make it say anything you want above. And then here, it was actually, they wanted to do Knoxville. So that was easy. I just did all caps. And that's also in the Daniel. And so it's Daniel font that I was saying earlier that it's like, well, it wasn't perfect because I made it small. And at that small size, that E, the serif on the E is kind of like touching to the top of the E, and it's starting to make like a different kind of letter. And it's just a stylized letter. If we look at the font itself, like if I select the word Knoxville again, if I hover over here, it tells me not to use it smaller than 0.35 of an inch. And if I change this over to, if I pop that back up, it also says in metric, 9 to 40. So that's the suggested size range, is 9 to 40. Well, if I click on here where it says text, the text tab, the height is 9, right? So I'm right at the minimum suggested size. And because I'm at a small size, I bet any money, if you look in the properties for push and pull comp, there's 0.2 pull comp, just like Nick said, that I was going to want to put on there.
What size is your full patch? Just highlight the whole thing.
Yeah, so if I select like the whole design, I think this patch is probably in the neighborhoods of almost 5 inches tall. It's 107 by 120. So if I switch that into inches so that it's easier to understand for some, it's 4.2 tall by 4.7 wide, right? Including the cut line. So like I said, the word Ohio, if I select that, also in Daniel, and now I've reduced the size. Oh, I'm in inches. That's why. Sorry, let's go back to metric here to 6. So that font suggested not to be smaller than 9, but I used it at 6, and it turned out pretty good. At 6, if you really want to go smaller, then you're going to go, and here's one of my favorite fonts to go smaller, and they don't recommend, Floriani says 10 for this font, Anna, not Aria, or where the heck is, oh, sorry, it's all the way up top here, Anna. I think it's because I have it favorited. So if you'd favorite fonts, they move up to the top, and I haven't really got all of them favorited, just a few of them. So, but point is, now I'm going to change it to Anna. It's going to go to the default height. So it's going to be like too big for what I want. But if I come in here and I make it back down to, let's say 5, which is half of what it's suggested to be, I can get it quite small. And at 5, the issue with the font is the width. It's just too skinny to really look well. If you embroidered it, it probably wouldn't look great. And if I look, it's just barely 1 millimeter wide. And you can even kind of see where the underlay is struggling to stay underneath a little bit. So let's select it, come in here. First of all, let's look at the underlay. So it's set for a parallel underlay, but the stitch length is 3.5. Well, that's pretty long, right? See where this could be shorter, maybe a 2, on such a small letter would be more appropriate for the stitch length. And then we could do on the pull comp. See, that still didn't fix that one a little bit. But if we go absolute pull comp 0.2, go away, and click apply, this is going to fatten right up. Oh, and that is probably what it would take to make those letters look really good. Anna can look as good as 5 millimeters tall. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. All right. So, how did I make the skyline totally new and wonderful and, into Knoxville? See, totally changed it. How? I went and found some artwork, because I am not contrary to popular belief, an actual artist. I don't draw. I mean, maybe I can draw rectangles like this, but it's just easier when there's something to follow, is all I'm saying. I knew that there needed to be the big, cool, round gold building. The Knoxville's got a very cool, boy, I'm now embarrassed. I don't know what it's called, but is for the World Fair, and they're proud of it. You can't miss it. It's like one of those things that wherever you are in the city, you can kind of find your way around because it's there. Anyhow, I got an artwork. Like I went and bought it. I have an account, I buy clip art, so that I can make jobs like this easy, right? Because I wanted it to be easy, really is the goal. You can click, 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 click. I bought a really good clip art, like people go, why does it work for Trevor and not for me? Well, the magic wand is an auto trace, but it does suffer from pixelization. The more pixelated your artwork is, in other words, if you're not buying it and you're getting it free on the internet and it's only 400 pixels by 400 pixels, you kind of get what you paid for, and I don't pay a lot for graphics, but I do have an account, and then it allows me to get the biggest size, right, with the most, and that makes my auto trace so much more accurate. That's it. So at this point, I don't need the backdrop anymore. If you don't know what I just said, auto trace is a tool that looks like a magic wand, and it will trace a shape. Excuse me, now I got the hiccups. If I click on the V, it'll trace the V. See? And what can you do with that, Trevor? Well, you can select it and click on fill and fill it in with embroidery. Or you could do an auto satin and satin it. Although it's probably kind of big, it's not bad. You can see that it's all satin. Here, I like red for sort of contrast on my screen. I can see things pretty good. What I'm saying here is I can see down at the bottom the splitting happening. Remember I was saying in the beginning about you can split them if there's a limit, right, to how big you can go. And what we're talking about is how wide you can go. It's the same thing that you measure when you go small is when you go big. So now it's 6 across. But at the bottom, this stitch here is a clear 11, and that's if you didn't split that stitch, it would be a serious problem. And so what I have turned on here is something that's in your properties called the split. It's on a random split. And this is what I was saying earlier. You could say middle split, and then it would do kind of a middly split thing. That didn't turn out really good. Let's try to see why. Oh yeah. And then if I just made it a little smaller, and it seemed to correct that. If I made it even smaller, like I measured and this was 5.9. So if I say the maximum is 5, I think it'll split the whole thing right down the side. So that's what I was saying earlier. Now I can decide middle split, or I could do a random split, and it would split it that way. But once again, it's got some weird stitching in the corner of that. It really, to correct that, I might end up in here with I didn't, remember this was auto done, and I might, come in and give it I think the problem is the angles. It needed an extra inclination. It wasn't really the stitch settings at all that was the problem. It was the software had like an inclination going this way and an inclination going that way, and it wasn't really seeing the way between. So, when you rely on automation, because remember, I just took a backdrop and used a magic wand to click on something, and then used an auto satin to fill it in with thread. That's total auto digitizing. If you don't like it, you have to know how to fix it. That's all I'm saying, right? That's I don't think it's ever fair to say you don't need to know anything when you own an embroidery software, because you do. You learn a lot of things. How did I do the Knoxville? So I took all this and I filled it in, but then I copied it and I brought it into my other design, and I found the shape where that was there for the fill for the buildings, and so that's number 39. So what's after 39 but 40? Then after 40 is 41. So right after those buildings is this border, which is going to start there on the left. So I know that I can ditch that piece and make a new piece and make it finish there. And I'm kind of, so it's going to be like a new 40. We're, 50 is the new 40. So, yeah, but 60 is the new 50. Function delete. All right. So I got rid of that piece. I don't need it. And you don't normally have to click function. I'm on a Mac, so there's one extra little keystroke I hold down for that. And I see the first piece there is really just a run stitch that I use to kind of get. Sometimes I don't like to start abruptly. I like to run up to where it's going. And so I don't think I need that piece is what I'm saying. Let's get rid of that. So really, the first piece is the border, so whatever we put in, as long as it's before that border, which starts right here, we know we're good. And I can paste in the buildings. Remember, there's somebody here. There they are, way over there. So they're massive, but remember, that's because I got a massive clip art to get it really high resolution. But now I'm going to shrink it to the size that I need, and then I'm going to bring it on over and kind of, put it over top. And so now we're kind of like, okay, visually just making it work. And so put them in. Let's see. So it kind of lined up this corner, and it's still too far. So, now I might decide once I got that tall building in there. So I don't know if this part's important to me. I was thinking, maybe I could stop there. Where did I do it? I don't know. Yeah, see, I kind of did something like that. I kept part of it. You can keep as much of it as you want. And this time I think I'm keeping less. Here, let's go more, bring it in. So I think maybe that's all of it, right? So at this point, I feel like I'm going to need to move this up and then add some more bottom to it, to make it kind of look right. So it's probably going to be more like there. And so if I click on the edit shape tool, I could pretty easily bring this point, down here, maybe zoom in really closely here to do a good job of that, because I can see that I kind of made some weirdness when I didn't move this point and when I just didn't straighten out that little tangent line. But then I think these ones will probably pull down pretty well. What other points are there over here? So here I'm going to pull this one down, but it's starting to get like under, it's, there's only a point here and a point there, and it's coming in between. Can you see that? So I'll just grab right on the pink line and like fix it. See how easy that is to do? So I'm just doing what's known as reshaping right now, and showing you kind of how I took one design, and like I said, it was probably a lot faster because I wasn't sitting here trying to narrate the whole process. But the what's left, right? Because now I've got that black and I think it's in there, but it's, sequence wise, that needs to be kind of moved up to be I could go like one thing at a time up like that. And so it's going to be in the same color as the black. So you would just click on black to change it. And then it'll be, 39 and 40. So I just need to make sure that old number 39 is going to end down here in this corner, because right now its red point is up there. So I'll just move that to match up. And so I think we're fine. However, as you could probably see, there's still a little bit of a flaw, and that's the sun rays are all matched up with the wrong buildings, right? They no longer go where you need them to go, Trevor. I know. So I literally clicked on every one of those and did this shape tool too, and just like moved their points. So when I don't auto digitize them, they have less points because I did the clicking. So these were ones that I didn't have, there I pulled 2 points down, fixed it. Yeah, that's what I did. This was like the last step. It was change the text, and then it was just go in and move the fills to line them up, kind of thing. So yeah, there you go. And Yeah, so there you have it. Dad, my dad's texting me now, so I'm something got Dad on the mind. I guess Father's Day coming up. So that's it. That's how I made my Knoxville. It's not Knoxville, Ohio, of course. You gotta still find where it says Ohio and come in here and just make that one say Tennessee. Did I get it right? No, I'm missing an S. Tennesse. I think that's it. And so ta-da! Yeah, and of course I still did it in Daniel. This is the Anna font. Notice the font spacing is getting whacked out. When I moved the Ohio, it's remembering the edits that I made. I'll show you one way to correct that. It's just a workaround. It's not a fix or anything like that. It's Anna font right now. If I change it to be, I don't know, Asgard or something else that's just near it. It doesn't matter what it is. Bamboo, any font, right? And it will be big and wrong and out of the way, whatever. Okay, but then go back. So then go all fonts and go back to Anna again, and it'll fix that letter spacing up. I'm going to go back to Anna at, was it 5 I was trying to do? And it'll put it back again, but it won't be all weird spacing. So stupid. And I'm looking in, we've kind of asked the developers to look at that, but maybe there's a way that it can be auto updated when you change the font, because that would be good. But I think that's the workaround to me. Is if I'm doing a font and it gets confused, I either grab the handles, because of course the flip side of that is I could just right click and say edit text, and then I've got all the handles that I can use to move them, but really you shouldn't need to. And they just, when they don't line up automatically, I think it's because it got confused, is the bottom line. Don't forget, if you're making them small like this, that you're going to want to come in here and put on that pull comp at like 0.02. That's the real crux of it, I think, because it's an important detail to it'll just fatten them up. Now 0.2, it could be 0.3, it could be 0.4, but that starts to, when you put 0.2 on, when something's only like 0.8 across and you put 0.2 on this side and 0.2 on that side, that's like adding 50%, right? If I added 0.4, if something's 0.8 across and I add 0.4 on one side and 0.4 on the other, I'm doubling it, right? So sometimes that's too much, percentage wise. If I double it, it may not, it may be more than's needed, is all I'm saying. It's balance to it. So because if you give too much, the E no longer looks like an E. But this font here is designed to go much smaller. That, remember, originally I had these in the Daniel, but I wasn't trying to get them down quite that small. I had them in Daniel at 6, and I think they looked pretty darn good on the stitch out. But you can see how changing to Anna just gave it a lot sort of simpler look to it. So yeah, good questions today. Thanks so much for asking a few. Do you got another question there, Nick? I think it's.
Do you have or Trevor, have you sent to your members a patch with words like the Ohio one? If so, what workshop?
Well, in workshop 4, we did a patch challenge. I didn't, I just made this one and I gave this to all the people from Cleveland. But we did in workshop 4. Well, here, let's go on. Bring my screen back up again, Big Nick. But I'm going to go on to, it'll be a little awkward a minute here. Sunset Stitches. So workshop 4. Yes. If I go to the member download page, I'll need to log in to be able to see the contents of that page. So let me just, I know 8 plus 7, because that's when you play crib, you got to know your 8 plus 7s. Is one of your 15 twos, right? 15 2 for 8 plus 7. Anyhow, I'm sorry, there's a skill testing question to get into my website, which is always throws me off. But apparently that's how we know it's not a robot. So I go to member download page. And so here's one way. I mean, if you get the book, and I updated this yesterday, so this is fresh stuff. This is the whole PDF, like up to the end of class 18, the whole workshop, from workshop 4 class 1 to the end of class 18 were 140 pages. That's all the class notes of all these classes. That said, each one of these classes, so there's class 18 and 17 and 17A and 16 and 16A. But you can see here that this was a snowflake challenge, and there was an open design challenge. We had a thread sketch challenge and an applique and cutwork challenge and the presets and assets challenge. And here we go, crest or patch challenge showcase class. And I included a bunch of patch shapes, and it was a whole class. This class number 8 would be all about doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. So all that said, let me know if you have questions, but that's a great place to start on that one, is the patch class. But I'm always happy to share, if somebody's looking for something in particular. So I didn't, if you really want the Ohio one, you can just send me an email. I'd probably send it to you, is what I'm saying. But but the real truth is, it's just like anything, if we can learn to do it, then you don't need my patch, right? Because and if you get my shapes, in that class, there's a whole gallery of like 60 shapes or something that you get, and they're really easy to make patches from. Yeah, and I go through how to do it. But so did anybody come on Wednesday? I was working on Winnie the Pooh designs. The question I got on Wednesday was, when are you going to be done doing Winnie the Pooh? I was like, oh man, are you guys sick of my Winnie the Poohs already? We're Digitalk class 10 is next week, or we're going to be hitting class number 10. This is Free Font Friday number 22, you guys. We've released 22 fonts. And I just think that it's fantastic that the people that joined up for Workshop 4, that got all of those classes that I just showed you guys, that this is all bonus content that nobody expected or asked for or even wanted, right? And it's like, oh no, I started doing Winnie the Pooh on the internet and just said the designs could be for the members. But really, we didn't just do Winnie the Pooh, you guys. In the last 10 weeks or 8-9 weeks that we did it, I did spirograph in there. Loren came on and did some sketching, did a flower sketch session for us. So there's been quite a bit of other things than just the Winnie the Pooh designs going on. But I'm not, the answer I gave them was, I got enough Winnie the Pooh. There's enough images in my folder to keep me going all year long. So I'll keep doing Winnie the Pooh is the answer. But I will be mixing in other stuff, right? So I think next week we'll probably do a little firework, because I want to keep inspiring everybody to do the challenge, right? So I might do an additional firework design. This is one of my favorite ones, the piglet sleeping in his little bed and the little tiny, I love getting the little details into these if I can. Not all of them, to be honest, not all the drawings have a lot of small details on them. Some of the drawings are very, they were just a little tiny Winnie the Pooh in the corner of a page of a written book that you were meant to read. It was a whole, we're talking about over 100 years ago in a different era of the time, but they are embroidering up pretty darn nice, aren't they? So yeah, if you're following along, that's every Wednesday I work on that. And then you, of course, as members, get the design. So really, the Free Font Friday, the font archive, all 22 fonts. Hey, Nick, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have two. Suzanne says, so when you digitize on Wednesday, do you also use Sketch-a-Stitch?
Yes, sometimes. Loren did, for sure. That's the question here, Suzanne, when you digitize on Wednesday. So it's not about Sketch-a-Stitch per se, but when I'm live like this, I'm always happy to interact a little bit, and answer a few questions. And so, but that said, Suzanne, I sometimes use Sketch-a-Stitch when I do Winnie the Pooh, and I sometimes use click, click, click when I do Winnie the Pooh. And so I kind of use the techniques because it's not a program. To me, it's no longer a program. Anybody that owns both, it's all blended into one. And so you don't have Sketch-a-Stitch and FTCU, you have both, right? And when you have both, you can use them both at the same time. I am not saying that I can like play the drums and the piano at the same time, but when I'm digitizing, I can go back and forth. So with the drums, I guess you could spin around and play your piano and then spin back to your drums. It's kind of the same thing, right? I can click on the sketch, do a little sketching, click on the pencil, do a little clicking. I do mostly clicking because it's more accurate. But a lot of these Winnie the Pooh ones, some like so in the front of the when I do Piglet, click, 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 because I don't want any clicks to not be exactly where I want, because I only have like 15 clicks to get him right. He's so small, and it needs to say that this design is absolutely nothing if you can't tell that that's Piglet poking out of the grass, right? That's all that's important. So I can use the pen to click and drag and do that grass up real quick, but I'm going to stop and click, click, click to do Piglet. I hope that makes sense. Here's one where, you might think I want to click and drag, but I ended up doing click, click, click because I really wanted to be able to make that cupboard just exactly how it was in the picture, and the picture was there. So it was just easy enough to keep going, click, 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 than it was to stop. So it's almost indetectable when I use the tool from Sketch-a-Stitch and when I use the tool for click, click, click. But it's not, to me, I can tell, so if you can, here's the thing. If you're going to do the hours of a clock, and it's got to be, over and back, and it's very specific, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. You can't have any threads that cut from 9 over to 11. It needs to go back to the circle and over to the next one and down and back to the circle. And then you're going to click, click, click to make sure that you don't miss any clicks. Because with the click and drag, the software tends to just decide, okay, you may have drawn all those lines, but I'm going to decide how to place the stitches along them based upon my intelligence, because it will avoid uncomfortable stitching when you use the Sketch-a-Stitch, whereas with the click, 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 I can make uncomfortable stitching. It's not uncomfortable to wear, but it might not sound pretty to sew, and it might not sew as well because you can get too many needle points kind of impacted into one small spot. So once again, the more kind of manual you take it, the more control you can have. If you do the Sketch-a-Stitch, it's a little bit harder to get too many needle points in one spot because software will naturally cut them down in the corners and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but you want to get the clock, the hours of the clock, then you got to go click, click, click. Yeah, that's it. Another question for me, Nick?
Can you use Procreate with the FTCU program?
Oh, hey, that was a question somebody asked me and I never did answer last time. Was that last week when we were here? Thank you for asking it again. Procreate is like something that I have on my phone that I can draw with. I think you can get it on the iPad. You can probably get it on other things too, like Androids or whatever, but it's an app, right? So that app is something that you would use to create an image, and anything that you have that can create an image could be used with FTCU. Anything. Procreate, CorelDRAW, Adobe Illustrator. The great news is that FTCU can open a lot of different formats. And the worst case scenario is you go with the JPEG, or the PNG. If you're in your Procreate and you're trying to create, for FTCU, I don't know enough about Procreate. Maybe you know the answer to this, Nick, but I know that Loren and Reese use a lot. I know that Procreate allows me to create with layers and photos and images and all these things, and probably even add text in and all kinds of tools for drawing and painting and, scratching with or whatever, pinching and whatever it is. But I think at the end, what I'm trying to get at here is you're making a pixelated image. When you save it, your options are probably going to be JPEG, PNG, GIF, I don't know, BMP. I don't know that it makes an SVG. If it does, even better. And I should look into that to know that answer for sure. But I believe when you're going to get with Procreate is an image that's made up of pixels. So it could be just as clean as when I brought up the Knoxville skyline and had that black and white image that was pixels. There's no shapes. When I open that up, it's a JPEG image, but it is a high quality JPEG image with lots of resolution at a decent size, and you save it. Yeah, I remembered thanks for asking, because I remembered after we stopped thinking, that was a good question. I didn't answer it, and I'm sorry. But Procreate is a great, I use a lot of different things like apps like that to prepare stuff for embroidery. Especially for photo stitching. When I'm going to do the photo stitch tool, I might want to increase the contrast or reduce the colors in a different program and then bring it to the Floriani to kind of, because really with the photo to stitches, you kind of get, you don't have a lot of influence over it. So you can do what you can do. And then if you want to do more, you end up doing it in a graphics program like a Photoshop or, Paint Shop Pro or any of those ones. So if you have Procreate, my suspicion is you're going to be making a PNG, or a JPEG, and that's fine. And then you can just share it. If you're on your iPad, you draw it and you go, I want to convert this into embroidery. I want to auto digitize this or manually digitize this, or photo stitch it or whatever. You need to send it to your PC, right? You need to click share. You need to choose how to get it there. And that could be email. You could email it to yourself. You could if you have like me, I have a MacBook. I can airdrop it over to the computer and then drop it into my Windows so that it's all, actually I set my parallels up so that my Mac and my Windows share the same desktop. So anything that's on the desktop is shared automatically. You just put it on your desktop and away you go. So, but if I'm on my iPad and I got to get it to my computer, that's a process that the iPad makes available. It's just like your phone when you're like, I got amazing picture, I want to send it to my mom. So you click the share button, and then you get the little menu. How do you want to share it and who do you want to share it to? And you can put it in a Dropbox, or there's all kinds of things that you can do. Next questions. Next.
I've got, not sure if this is the time or place, but here goes. I was trying to convert a PES brother to HQV quilting on my Regina.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And imported it to FTCU and couldn't find that.
Are you using your mic, by the way, today?
I'm not.
So that then don't read it, because nobody can hear you. That's why we put the mic on. Nick's got a mic, but he's not using it.
It's too long to go to it and go back.
Well, but then let me read it. Then just put the thing on the screen and I'll read it, because I have a mic. So nobody can hear what you're saying. Not sure if this is the time and the place, but here goes. I was trying to convert a PES to HQV and imported it into FTCU and couldn't find that file extension. Okay. Does FTCU mainly focus on embroidery? So good question, Jeanette. The main thing to know with that is FTCU does not include any of the long arm quilt formats. However, and please bring my software up big for me, Nick, right now. If you add to your Floriani embroidery, program, either, and there's several options here, but I just wanted to show you, if I say save as, and I pop up my list. So notice in here that I have the HQF, I have the CQP, I have DXF, I have PAT, IQP, TXT, PLT, SSD, QLI. Those are all different long arm quilt formats that become available. We don't have all of the long arm quilt formats. However, everyone I know that owns a long arm can use one of our formats to work with their long arm, is what I'm trying to say. So there's usually a go-between format if we don't have all of them. Now, how did I get those? You could buy, if you have FTCU, you won't automatically have them, but they get added to the program if you get Total Quilter. That is the main one. But they also get added with Sketch-A-Stitch. And Sketch-A-Stitch is less money. You know, if you wanted to find the least expensive way to get that in, remember, Sketch-A-Stitch is the one a lot of people buy as a standalone, you know, because it's a great program for doing sort of sketch style embroidery. And that's what Suzanne was asking me about, you know, do I use Sketch-A-Stitch and Digitalk? And the answer is I'll sketch for you anytime you want, Suzanne. I will do some purpose-made classes for members that are about Sketch-A-Stitch and focus in on different, you know, aspects of the program and how I do it in a more purposeful way. But I don't mind in Digitalk to ask questions, you guys, and do a little bit of teaching all the way along. So it was great to have you guys today. It's coming kind of close to the top of the hour, and so I'm just kind of winding down. But thank you so much for visiting today. It's always wonderful to see you guys. I never got to say where I was going next, and I wanted to announce. I was going to announce that, and I remember saying had some news about that. So the good news is I'm going back to the beach there in sunny San Diego. I will be in San Diego for the September 20th and 21st weekend at Sewing Machines Plus, you guys. And it was so great to catch up with those guys on their website last week for Hoop Fest. I have more news, hot off the press. Planning to be in Crestview, Florida at Ruthie's in September. I believe that will be the 14th and 15th or something like that, or anyway, it's in the weekend before San Diego. I will be at Ruthie's there for also 2 days. And after that, in October, I'm going to be at Fonder Sewing. These are all repeat events. I've been to all these places before, and so these are my little things that I brought home from there. But Fonder Sewing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So it'll be great to catch up with those guys as well. Yeah. And I hope to have more news about more places that I'm going to visit in November and maybe even in October. So, you know, we'll see, and maybe even December. So, yeah. And then there are some ideas about January, February, March too. So, I will update my calendar, and I hope you know that I have a calendar here. Maybe could you bring bring me up big again, Nick? I'll go back on Sunset Stitches. There's a place that's called Dates and Times. And if you go to Dates and Times, you can find out, you know, where everything I'm going to be doing and when. So here's your members of Workshop 4. Here's your next 3 classes. Digitalk, here's your next 2. Free Font Friday, well, this is today, and there's the next couple. There's a members retreat that's going on for Workshop 3 right now. So if you don't know about the Workshop 3 members retreat, we're focusing on specialty stitches. That was a lot of fun. I created some pretty neat embroidery designs for the first class, which was, I guess, 2 weeks ago. And then next week is the second class of that, right? So this is kind of total bonus, you guys. I finished my Workshop 3 back in 2018, I think, or in 2019, one of those ones. And but I added new classes to all the past workshops. We added new classes this year. Workshop 1, 2, and 3 all got a little retreat. And we're currently in the Workshop 3 members retreat. And later on this year, we're going to do a Workshop 4 members retreat. So if you ever purchased any of my DVDs in the past, all you need to do is come to my website, join as a new member, and then just join as a free member. Don't buy them again. You've already paid. You just need to get a free membership, and then you can email me and tell me what you bought, and I can take care of the rest. But then you'll be able to get all the new classes and any classes you've ever missed from Workshop 1, 2, and 3. So yeah. Hi, Vicky. How long will the retreat last for Workshop 3? My calendar's trying to crowd. It's going to be 2 hours. Yes, it's 2 hours. Thank you. All my workshop classes are typically always 2 hours, and all my lives are typically 1 hour or less. And so on that note, it is the top of the hour, and it's kind of time to say goodbye to you guys. It's Free Font Friday here at Sunset Stitches, you guys, and the latest font is called Cutout. My name is Trevor Conquergood, and I'm here with my son Nick, who has made a lot of these awesome fonts for me. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. We enjoy all the comments on the Facebook, and so thank you so much to everybody that chatted with us today. If you're visiting later on and you want to drop in a line and say hi, we'll be happy to hear from you guys. But until then, you guys, we got Digitalk next week, Wednesday. We got Workshop 3 Members Retreat Thursday next week. And then I'll see you next Friday for Free Font Friday at Sunset Stitches. Until then, you guys, thank you so much for stopping into the studio today. And bye for now. I can see all your comments, by the way, as you're saying goodbye to me. I still see that. But I'm saying goodbye. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye. And happy Father's Day on